First and foremost, hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Anime and Vibes. Back to continue the adjacent of anime characters to black cultures. And of course, I left off last with Knuckles, so I'm gonna pick up on him. So if you remember, Knuckles had this Australian outback thing going on back in the day with the hat, the bag, and the Rastafarian shoes. So it was like they made him an amalgamation of like many different cultures in one. And then in the Archie comics, they kept the locks and the shoes, took away the hat, and they gave him more of a Mesoamerican Skypiea type of vibe from One Piece. It was kind of crazy back then how that was. And then, a lot of us were like, well, what happened to the hat? Yes, OG fans missed the hat. I missed the hat. And we hadn't seen that hat for like 25 years until the Murder of Sonic game came out. And then he brought the hat back. And a lot of fans that were new to the series were like, yo, he had a hat. We're like, yeah, the hat was his prized possession. Touch the hat, you get the hands. That's how it was. And then, ironically enough, they brought it back for the Knuckles show, which nobody was expecting that. But OG fans were glad he did. And now I'm done with the hat and Knuckles' amalgamation of cultures. Let's go on to Knuckles adjacent to black culture in the Caribbean, in the island known as Jamaica. So if you don't know, Knuckles was originally supposed to have like a Jamaican accent and all that. If you don't believe me, if you read the Sonic 3, I think hand guide or manual, it has a quote of Knuckles saying, "Then I presume Sonic is allowed to play his own game, man. He's supposed to have an accent and everything." And also, if you go back, every time Knuckles shows up, it's like a Caribbean type of beat in the game. A lot of people didn't pick up on that, and you really had to like pay attention to notice that. And once again, the Rastafarian flag couldn't have made that any clearer. Like, it was all there for you to see. Like, he was supposed to be a Caribbean type of personality. And then they mixed that with Mesoamerica, which is not too far off because there were pyramids not in the Caribbean. It's not hidden. There are pyramids they found underwater in Cuba. So, yeah. So, with that being said, if you don't believe me, all the facts are there. And I take my throne as proving this once again because I don't just get on here and talk about random stuff. I talk about things that are actually a part of anime lore to the games and characters, which all tie into real life as well. And with that being said, all the races, you all can choke on this respectfully, happily, carefully, whatever. But it all makes sense why Knuckles in the live action has a British accent, because a lot of people from the Caribbean, they tend to go to England. And there's an interesting history behind that, but we'll save that lore for another day. Now for our next character, the forgotten Metabee. Now, if you don't remember Metabots was like if you took Gundams and then gave them the personality of Cybertronians, or as you know them better as Transformers. And the most iconic one of them all was Metabee. Metabee was outspoken, dramatic, crazy, fun, cool, chill. Anything, this little guy, he was it. And his personality really reminded me more of Hot Rod from Transformers. It was just the way he acted. He was ill-tempered, quick to get angry, quick to react. That was Metabee. Metabee was what Bumblebee in the movieverse became. A lot of people didn't really catch that. And then the fact that Bumblebee and Metabee shared almost the same name. Like, come on, who didn't pick up on that? That was so obvious that he mirrored Bumblebee and Hot Rod, like fused together. I'm just being honest because I picked up on that as a kid. I don't know if anyone else did. But his voice actor, Joseph Matoki, who is from Canada, he really emphasized that Black American culture that Bumblebee, the Metabee, really emphasized in his actions and mannerisms throughout the entire show, which gave Metabee the persona he had and made him who he is. Very iconic yet forgotten figure in anime, which I wish they would do like a reboot of Metabots because it's well needed, because a lot of kids, unless you got put on by an older brother or your parents or whatever from this generation of the 90s or 80s, a lot of people don't know about Metabots, and it's pretty sad because it's such a good series. But you can also find the entire series here on YouTube, so if you ever get bored, you want to go down memory lane, Metabots is on here. And I'm going to play a little excerpt of Metabee talking so you can have that nostalgia aesthetic feeling of how he sounded and get a bit of a feel for his mannerisms in case you forgot, because it has been so long. I wish I could play this entire clip, but I can't because you know how YouTube is about copyright. So yeah, but here we go.
I don't take commands from you.
Ow! Ow! Then again, maybe it's just defective.
Hey, come back here. I'm gonna show you a little something. Name's Metabee, baby. Metabee.
So there you have it. You just heard and saw firsthand how the Black American culture really influenced Metabee's whole persona, and our influence in anime in general has always really been there. And since a lot of people like to say that we don't have a culture, it's there. We can see it, we hear it, we see everyone want to copy it. it's there whether you like it or not. But you got to give us our credit when credit is due. Unfortunately, there hasn't been any talk of a reboot for Metabots. Hopefully that happens. Fingers crossed. We see what happened with Dragon Ball, how it's gotten a reboot and continuation. Even Pokemon and Digimon as well. So hopefully that happens in the future. There are still clubs on Facebook and Twitter. And if you want to put your kids on or your little brother or sister on Metabots, remember the clips still are on YouTube to this day. So if you need a refresher, they're all there. And I believe the new generation deserves to see a new art style of Metabee and Ikki and the rest of the crew all together again, a new era, just to keep that memory alive, that nuanced nostalgia of Metabots. Now, this next person on the list, they might seem like a bit of a reach, but hear me out. I chose Mewtwo. It's adjacent to Black culture. Now, before y'all get out here and say everyone was slaves in history, everyone, okay, we know that that's true to a sense. Most were indentured servants. However, there were only one group of indigenous people who were bred to be slaves and stronger and be able to do harder labor. And that was no other than those reclassified as Black in North America and South America that weren't already here. And Mewtwo fits that perfectly, and his liberation for his people, aka Pokemon and his clones. And this line emphasized even more on why I chose Mewtwo.
We dreamed of creating the world's strongest Pokemon. And we succeeded.
Honestly, from the time they created Mewtwo and they could read his brainwaves, I don't know why they thought creating the world's most strongest and powerful Pokemon that he would just be like your average little Pidgey and just get back in his Pokeball and do what he's told. Like, no, you created the world's strongest Pokemon. That's not how that works. If I know I'm stronger than you and I have the power to do whatever I want, you think I'm gonna take orders from you? And then the fact they made him a telepath, so they didn't think that he could read their minds. Dr. Fuji and the rest of his team, hired by Giovanni, they were not smart at all, because if I know this guy's a telepath, I would have told everybody, make sure your minds are free. Think of Magikarp. Think of something just, I don't know, something that he won't pick up on, because that's what caused his entire liberation movement. And honestly, his liberation movement reminded me of Malcolm X. Here's a speech from him.
To fight whoever gets in our way. Here in the Western Hemisphere, and first here in the United States, and bring about the freedom of these people by any means necessary.
And a quick recap, the only reason we even got Mewtwo was because Dr. Fuji, anime-wise, manga-wise, it was blamed, in case you don't know. He was so obsessed with bringing his daughter back that it cost his wife to leave him, and he just couldn't get over the fact that he lost his daughter. And then twice, because they showed that in the movie. But it gave us Mewtwo, so I mean, that's a bonus for us. Con for him, because it also ended in his demise. But luckily, Gary got to be the first trainer in the series that got to fight Mewtwo, even though we didn't know that was Mewtwo at the time in the armor. But hey, that all worked out for us nonetheless. But like I said, it gave us just this cool Pokemon of a mind of his own, like a revolutionary in his own right, fighting for the cause and freedom of his people. When you look back at Mew and Mewtwo's battle, it pretty much mirrored MLK and Malcolm X's plight. Though they were fighting for somewhat the same thing, they had different views of going about it. Even though in the end, MLK did agree that Malcolm X was right. So sadly, he didn't live long enough to hear those words from him. And you know who else had the same kind of backstory of Mewtwo? A hedgehog we know, a dark, edgy hedgehog with trauma. Shout out the hedgehog. He lost Maria and Mewtwo lost Amber. I mean, it's not hard to tell, but you can clearly tell that Shadow's whole entire backstory was mirrored off of Mewtwo's. Like, origin story, a clone, loses the girl that he's friends with, turns against the whole entire world for his creation. It's all there. And oh yeah, an honorable mention to Rayman, because Rayman was highly adjacent to Black American culture. If you played the first game back in, I want to say like 97, 98, you know what I'm talking about. But next time you look at Mewtwo, or you go back and watch Pokemon the first movie, just remember what I said. Might be of a bit of a reach, but that's what I got out of the battle between Mew and Mewtwo. Mewtwo being a liberator and a clone who wants the freedom of his people by any means necessary, even if that meant he had to destroy humans to make sure that his people were okay. That's kind of what Malcolm X was on. He wasn't really on destroying everyone, but he wanted to make sure his people were first above all, because he was tired of watching the things happen to them, especially the trauma he had as a young child. Same thing happened to Mewtwo, trauma as a young child. And Mew was more of the mediator, like, yo, we can do this in a better way. But that's just what I took from the story. I could be wrong, or I could be right. But the next time you watch Pokemon the first movie and as an adult, or you might be watching as a kid, when you get older, watch it as an adult, and you'll see what I'm talking about. With that being said, that wraps up part 3 of anime characters adjacent to the various black cultures / ethnicities in anime. So I hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope you took a little insight. Hopefully open your mind a little bit. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm just here to give my perspective on things and bring good vibes. With that being said, catch you guys in the next one. Be safe, good vibes, good health, spiritual guidance. With that being said, I'm out. Peace.